Hello and welcome to today's episode, which is all about embracing the delicious burn of chilies. If you've watched the brown butter carrots that I published recently, you'll have seen the bowl of chilies and heard me talk about the guy who contacted me on Instagram and offered me some of the chilies that he grows. I was drawing a blank with what to do with that quantity of chilies, and quite a few of them were super hots. I want to say it's anything over 150,000 on the Scoville ratings is classed as a super hot. Very intense, potent chilies. I finally settled on doing like a reaction type video because I thought maybe me crying and regretting my life choices would make entertaining content. The problem is the chilies weren't that hot, so there wasn't much of a reaction. I've chatted to the guy Josh and he said the same thing. He was like, I'm a bit disappointed they're not nearly as hot as I thought they were. So he's not entirely sure what happened there because some of them should be like up to kind of 1 million on the Scoville rating. They were hot, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of kick to them, but not the tears and intensity that I thought would make a good reaction video. I haven't watched the footage back yet to see what content I've got there. But then a few nights ago, I made some dinner. I needed something really quickly. And I fried off some chilies with some other bits and it turned into a really nice thing to put on top of tofu. So then I thought, well, what I could do is do a video and make that thing again. And then if the content, the reaction type content, if there's anything worthwhile putting in there, I'll chop that down and insert that into the video. And then we can come back and I'll show you how to make the chili dish. I'm not sure what to call it. Braised chilies, I think, because we're going to cook them down with some liquid and some tasty bits. Cook them nice and gently so it's quite tender, soft, bit of crunch to it as well. All being well, I'll hand you off to past me. A few months ago, a guy reached out to me on Instagram to say he lives in Leeds, has an allotment and grows chilies. If you haven't come across an allotment before, it's basically council-owned property that you rent and you can grow things in there and it's your kind of little patch of space where you can grow lots of nice things in it. He messaged me last week to say they're ready, so I went over a couple of days later and he's given me an enormous bag of stuff. Like, it's stunning the amount of produce I got. Along with the chilies, he gave me some carrots, grapes, perpetual spinach, some onions, just an incredible array of tasty goodies that I've been slowly working my way through. I snapped a picture of the chilies, sent it back to Josh, and he's come back with the names of all the chilies and their Scoville. The heat in a chili pepper is measured on the Scoville scale. So I'm on the Wikipedia page of Scoville at the moment. Apparently the scale is named after its creator, American pharmacist Wilbur Scoville. He came up with the Scoville organoleptic test, which is a subjective assessment derived from the capsaicinoid sensitivity by people experience when eating hot chilies. I've been planning this all day and now I'm here and doing it. I'm like, you're an idiot. So here's the chilies from mildest to hottest. That's the one I'm scared of. Feels a bit weird lining up your torture instruments on an olive wood board. I'm going to follow the advice of wearing gloves while I prep the chilies because I don't want to be touching my hands later on or any other part of my body. He's given me the Scoville for everything, but he's also made notes where he said I've tried that and it's not that hot. So I'm kind of going more on what he said rather than the hard and fast Scoville rules kind of thing. First up is this yellow Rocoto. So it's a very plump, juicy little boy. The Scoville on it is 30 to 50,000, but these ones are apparently very mild. Taking off a piece about so big. Like a bell pepper. That's delicious. Chilies have got a nice flavour to them. If you take the heat away, there is a lovely flavour there that's sort of fruity, a little bit like a Granny Smith apple. Mildly, a little bit like that. There's a very mild bit of heat there. I'd say warmth more than heat. So this one is a Rocoto Largo, not sure. Cut a little piece off. Got a feeling these pieces are going to get smaller and smaller. That's hotter than I thought it was going to be. It's nice. Aggressive, but nice. It's quite a sour note to it, quite aggressive. A bit like cayenne pepper. Next up is this little burning ember. When I saw them on the bush, they were like, start off quite purple, like a dark purple, and then they start lightening up. If I can get that in shot. Almost like candy corn in a way. That's milder than the other one. If you're in the UK, if you go to a supermarket and just get a pack of red chilies, it's like that kind of heat. Next up is this large red Rocoto. Again, that's got a very bell pepper texture to it as I cut through it. I'd put that at number 2, like if 1 is the lowest. So yellow, then the red one. Very mild, very bell peppery in taste, but then a little bit of on your tongue. It's not punchy or anything, it's just a nice bit of more than warmth. This next one, I've just realised he's missed it off the list and I needed to roll with the film, so I couldn't wait for an answer. I think this is a Ring of Fire. I'll go. Looks to me like a bird's eye chili, that kind of thing. It's very sharp. Again, quite cayenne pepper-like. Some of them would be nice, kind of raw, chopped on top of things, but some of them I think are going to be better for cooking, like that Ring of Fire, potential Ring of Fire. That's not such a pleasant one just to eat raw, but I think in food it'd be really nice. My lips are going a little bit numb, but that could just be a subtle build-up from all of them so far. Then we've got a chocolate ricotta. So this is similar to the red and the yellow one. I'm trying to think how to describe that flavour. Bell peppery, but then there's something else, like almost smoky. That's really nice. Like I could happily eat that raw. It has got some spice, but it's not blowing my head off by any stretch. That's really nice. Even just some like pan-fried broccoli with garlic and ginger, and then maybe very finely sliced, like on a mandolin, scatter that over the top of it. We've got a Scotch bonnet here. These are used a lot in Caribbean cuisine. Very hot. Josh said they can be up to kind of 250, but he thinks this one's probably around 100. That's mild actually. I'm just trying a bit more just in case. Very tasty pepper, like a raw tasty pepper. There's some heat there, but milder than I thought it was going to be. This little one is a Zimbabwean bird's eye chili. Some definite heat. It's not as much as I thought it was, unless I'm just becoming a bit immune to chili. And that'll stand up well in stir fries. It's got a nice kind of flavour to it, but then that heat as well is really nice. That just leaves the last one, which is a Dorset Naga. Up until a few years ago, the Naga Viper was the hottest chili in the world. That then got taken over by the California Reaper. This is a Dorset Naga, which Dorset is a part of the UK, down in the south of England. Dorset Naga's got a Scoville of between 1 million and 1,598,000. Yeah, I'm anticipating this to be hot. Josh's note was that this is about 800 Scoville, so we'll see, 800,000 Scoville. There's some definite heat, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's some spice. You know, I'm not downplaying it. I was anticipating pain, and that's just, yeah, that's nice. That's been quite an interesting, I've put my hand on the counter and there's been a bit of chili and rubbed my eye. That's been quite an interesting experiment just to see the different flavours and because the heat is hitting in different parts of my tongue. If you're not the biggest fan of chilies, see if you can find either someone online, or if you've got like a farmer's market or a chili shop, something like that in your town. Go and have a word with them. Like Chili Heads, very friendly people. They love sharing knowledge, that kind of thing. So see if you can find something that's very mild and then slowly introduce you into it, because it's nice, you know, it's a nice experience. You don't have to go for that stupid hottest chili. It doesn't need to be like that. It just adds a nice little bit of something. I've prepped all of the veg already because I just wanted to be able to put music on and just bop along to some 80s classic rock. But I've done you some close-up footage so I can slot that in as I'm walking you through everything. In my pan here, I'm warming up 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I'm going low and slow, so I probably won't take the stove higher than a 5 or 6 because I want everything to be really fresh and vibrant. And the more you start increasing the heat, things start catching and caramelizing, and that adds a different type of flavour that's not necessarily what I want to go with. I'm definitely going to use the extractor in this one because A, the smell of the fried onions, but B, the capsaicin that's in peppers is going to start flying around as soon as it heats up, and I need to get that away from my eyes as quickly as possible. While the oil's coming up to temperature, I'll walk you through what I'm going to put in there quickly. I've got some thinly sliced onions here, 2 small red and 2 small white ones. I did those on the mandolin, just cut them in half, peeled them, and then just whizzed them through the mandolin because it's nice and quick. And I've got 2 red bell peppers. These are just the, you know, your kind of sweet-ish peppers. Here's the bowl of chilies, the fiery bowl of badness. So in here I've got 2 yellow Rocoto chilies, 1 large red, another red Rocoto, Zimbabwean bird's eye, a Ring of Fire, 2 Dorset Nagas, 2 Scotch bonnets, and a couple of burning embers, I think they're called. I'm really hoping that the chili hasn't developed as these have been sitting on the counter, because I'm really going to regret my choices. But we'll see. The chilies have all got different flavours, like the Rocoto are fruity almost, a bit like apples. It's that kind of note to them. Whereas, for example, the Ring of Fire, it's more of a cayenne pepper, almost bitter. They're all bringing different notes into the dish, but also different types of heat. They all kind of hit your palate in a different way. Not all chili is the same, if that makes sense. It'll hit different receptors in different ways. One note on chopping chilies, and I cannot say this strongly enough, wear gloves, especially when you're dealing with the super hots. Josh warned me, I forgot until I was halfway through, and when I say my hands felt like I'd plunged them in boiling water for 3 days, I'm not being hyperbolic. Wear gloves, okay? And if you're thinking, oh, I'll just hold it with something else and use the knife, no, because it'll squirt up. I got it all over my face, all over the back of my hands, and there's no getting it off. I tried rubbing alcohol, soap, oil, everything. I just had to wait until my skin's shed. It's awful. You've been warned. For sweetness, I'm going to use some mirin. So this is like a cooking seasoning, I guess. It's made with fermented rice extract. It's like a rice wine, and then they add glucose, brown syrup, that kind of thing. So it's sweet, but then there's also a little bit of tanginess to it as well. You could use masala or sweet sherry or agave nectar, anything with a little bit of sweetness. I'd personally stay away from maple syrup because it's got a very distinctive flavour that's going to change the profile of the dish, but add it if you want to, that's not a problem. You could just use granulated sugar as well. I'm going to use apple cider vinegar in this as well. I put it in instinctively because I wanted some tanginess, and I thought, oh, the acid might help break the veg down so they're nice and tender. I was laying in bed the other night around 3 a.m. and suddenly started wondering, does vinegar neutralise chili heat? Because the dish, although it did have a kick, it wasn't to say how painful my hands were. So I Googled it, and apparently capsaicin is an alkaline. So if you add an acid to it, it neutralises it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it was interesting that I'd had the idea of putting that in there. You could use rice wine vinegar, white wine vinegar. I'd stay away from anything like balsamic or malt vinegar, like the type you put on chips, because again, it's going to really change the profile of the dish. But if you're taking it into a different direction anyway, feel free to use a bolder flavour of vinegar. I'm going to use some vermouth as the braising liquid. This is partly for bulk, just because I don't want just water in there. You might as well get something tasty. You could use sherry, rice wine, anything like that. Or if you don't want to have alcohol at all, just use maybe some just water or stock, vegetable stock, that kind of thing. When I made it the other day, I put tomatoes in. I thought I had still had some and I don't. So I'm going to put in a little bit of ketchup, just a little squeeze. I thought about putting tinned tomatoes in, but they've got a very intense acidic flavour that I think is going to change it more than I want it to be changed. But yeah, if you've got fresh tomatoes, absolutely put some of those in because it'll be delicious. And I'll do a little bit of salt and green pepper. I won't put tons of seasoning in because I'm using the acid, so it doesn't need much because the vinegar is going to do a lot of brightening the flavour anyway. I won't need tons of salt. Pans up to temperature, so let's start adding things in. Go in with the onions first. I'm just going to cook these down until they start wilting, just going very softened, a little bit sweet. So that'll take 5 or 6 minutes, something like that. I'm going to avoid getting much colour on there. Like a little bit of golden is okay, but not too much. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, probably, I don't know, 1/8 of a teaspoon, something like that. And I'm adding it at this stage because it will help pull the moisture out of the onions. You can see these are softening up nice and quickly, but not too quickly that they burn. So another minute or so. So everything's nice and softened now. Going a little bit jammy almost, a bit sticky. Add in the peppers. That's the 2 bell peppers. If you want to have a really sort of pretty looking dish, you could use like one red, one orange, or one yellow, that kind of thing. Just so you've got lots of variety in colour. And then I'll drop in the chilies. Let them fry off for a couple of minutes and then I'll start adding in the liquid. Just being careful to keep my face backed away because, as I say, all those capsaicin molecules are going to start lifting out of the pan. The chilies and the pepper are starting to soften down as well. So I'm now going to go in with the liquids. So I'll do probably a couple tablespoons of the apple cider vinegar. A tablespoon or so of the mirin. I'm going to do a blurt of ketchup, maybe a tablespoon. A good slosh of vermouth. So that's probably, I don't know, 5-6 tablespoons, something like that. And then a grind of green pepper. I'm using green just because that's what I've got in the house, so I don't have any black in. Be careful as you stir it when all this liquid's in because it can splash in your face. I guess you're effectively pepper spraying yourself. Just want to make sure The ketchup gets combined, and then we'll leave it to simmer for a couple of minutes. I'm going to serve this on rice, so it'll be nice to have some of that liquid kind of seeping down into the rice. Seeping's not the nicest word, is it? For food at least. Mingling with the rice. So I'll leave that for a couple of minutes and then start checking the flavour. That's been simmering away for a few minutes. I'm just going to give it a taste, just to see if it needs anything else in. Touch more ketchup. This kind of thing is going to be very much to taste though, so just add things until it tastes good. Give that a try. Might add a touch more mirin and then we're good. So here's our lovely, glistening, messy, colourful, wonderful dish. Final flavour check, but I think it's there. So everything's kind of, limp is the word I need, but it's not a pretty word. But everything's softened down the hatch. Although everything's softened, there's still a nice bit of crunch, especially from the onions. So there's lots of really nice textures going on in there. There's a lot of heat, don't get me wrong, but it's not overwhelmingly hot. It doesn't feel like abuse. Like my lips are a bit tingly and numb, but it's nice, it's pleasant. I've just made this buckwheat tempeh in the Instant Pot, and I think that's going to be the perfect kind of bland vehicle for that chili dish. I'll put the video link in the description for you. Normally tempeh is made with soybeans, but I tried out with buckwheat. I think because it's made with grains, it's got a mildly boozy kind of flavour, which is a bit weird, but I like it. But it's very neutral in flavour, so I think it's gonna be perfect for the chilies, because it'll just provide that nice bit of blandness almost. The thoughts just occurred that could easily be turned into like a relish chutney kind of thing. All I do is just keep cooking it down until most of the liquid's gone. Maybe add in some sugar, like dry sugar rather than a liquid sweetener. Maybe up the vinegar a tiny bit, and that should add enough preservative in that they'll keep in there, you know, in the fridge for a couple of weeks at least. So maybe do a smaller portion until you know what the shelf life's going to be like. But I think that would do really well. Nice, you know, on the side some vegan cheese with some cold cuts, that kind of thing. Kept the flavourings in this one really simple because I wanted the chili flavour to speak for itself. But you can easily take that into loads of different directions. So you could add tinned tomatoes, maybe find some tinned cherry tomatoes, and then add some Italian type herbs, oregano, thyme, that kind of thing, basil. You could take it into the direction of Indian/North African by adding spices, things like garam masala, caraway, cumin, coriander, sumac. Yeah, all of those kind of, because there's a nice flavour to it, all of that would tolerate lots of spices adding to it as well. If you're not a fan of chili, that'll easily work with just regular peppers. So like the bell peppers. You can also get those pointed ones. I want to say serrano, but I might be wrong. I'll put a note on screen if I'm wrong. So maybe just get a few different types of like sweet peppers and then do the same thing. It'll be just as tasty. Well, not just as tasty because the heat is awesome, but it gives you an alternative. I want to say a huge thank you to my community on Patreon. Your support really means a lot, both emotionally and financially, because you help keep my ingredients in my fridge, which is really useful, especially at the moment. My patrons get access to behind the scenes stuff in the kitchen, but also craft project progress, little ideas, random ideas that come to mind and work, or not, as sometimes the case is. If you want access to all of that, I'll stick the link down below for you. If you've enjoyed the video, leave a little like down below. You can also buy a super sticker if you fancy leaving a bit of monetary thanks. You can also subscribe and hit notifications if you want to be alerted as soon as there's a new video every week. And then while you're waiting, head over to this.